Let me tell you, if you told me a few months back that I'd wind up sitting at a kitchen table with a 9-year-old girl and her little brother after midnight, after everything we'd all lost, I'd have laughed you out of the room. But, you know what I mean? Life just has a way of shaking you awake when you least expect it, and sometimes that wake-up call doesn't come with sirens and flashing lights. It comes with the quietest knock, the smallest voice, and a story that starts on the edge of nowhere. It was one of those nights, thick with the kind of cold that settles deep in your bones, when little Emily Reed, just 9 years old, already more grown than most adults, I know, pulled a too big jacket tight around her shoulders and slipped out her front door. She paused just long enough to listen for her baby brother's breath, soft and shallow, bundled in her arms. Their house wasn't Mucha sagging porch, broken cupboards, and a mother too sick to move, but it was all she'd ever known. Tonight, though, she wasn't thinking about home. She was thinking about survival, about Jacob, hungry and crying, and about that promise she'd made. I'll take care of you. She stepped into the night, head up, feet steady, not looking back. The street was empty, not a soul stirring, no lights in any windows, not that it mattered. Emily had learned early you don't knock on doors when you have nothing to offer. The world didn't know you kindness, it hardly noticed you were there at all. She whispered to Jacob, "Hold on, I'll find something." Her voice was older than her years, stripped of softness, steady as stone. She kept walking, past houses as dark as her own, past the corner store with its closed blinds, past the ghosts of kids who used to be her friends before everybody stopped going to school. She walked, shoes too tight, soles worn thin, carrying her brother, and something bigger, a kind of hope you only see in children who've run out of choices. Her destination? The city center, where lights never go out, where laughter leaks from open windows, and folks never finish what's on their plates. She remembered watching, once as a man left the diner, his plate still full, just walked out like food was nothing. She'd wondered back then why nobody snatched it up. Now, she understood pride's a prison, and tonight she was breaking out. When she finally reached the fancy part of town, the difference hit her like a slap: brighter lights, clean sidewalks, the sharp smell of food drifting out to the street. She didn't let herself hesitate. Not tonight. She scanned for a back alley, hoping for a chance, just a bit of luck. That's all she needed. And there it was, a side door propped open, maybe forgotten by someone in a hurry. She slipped inside, holding her breath, sticking to the shadows. The warmth inside made her dizzy. The smell of bread and meat hit her so hard her mouth watered. Still, she kept her feet moving, heart pounding, until she stepped into the main dining room, a world away from anything she'd ever known. People in press shirts, gold chandeliers, tables set for royalty. Everyone stopped, forks in midair, eyes locked on the tiny figure standing by the door. Emily didn't flinch. She walked straight to a man eating alone, a mountain of food in front of him, his face as closed off as a vault. "Please, sir," she said, her voice steady. "Could I take what you won't eat? My brother's hungry." Yeah, that happened. A silence fell, thick and sharp, like everyone forgot how to breathe. The waiters looked ready to throw her out. A woman by the bar muttered under her breath. Emily just waited. She wasn't here to beg. She was here for Jacob. The man stared at her, something shifting behind his tired eyes. He raised a hand and stopped the staff with a look. "No, leave her." His voice was low, the kind that doesn't ask twice. Then he asked her name. "Emily," she said, and when he looked at the bundle in her arms, she added, "Jacob, he's 3. He nodded once. "Bring them something warm," he told the waiter, his voice sharp. When the food came, Emily unwrapped a slice of bread, tucked it into Jacob's blanket, and only then allowed herself a bite. The man watched her, a frown deepening on his face. "Where are your parents?" She didn't lie. "Mom's sick. Can't move. No one else." He pressed his lips together, like he was chewing something bitter. "I'll take you home," he said. She drew back, fierce. "I won't leave him." He lifted his hands, palms up. "You both. Show me the way." She hesitated but nodded. They're the look people get when they make a choice that changes everything. Emily had that look. They left together, the man carefully lifting Jacob so Emily could walk beside him. On the way to her house, they barely spoke, but there was a kind of agreement between the man, understanding that goes deeper than words. When they reached the sagging house, the man's steps slowed. The air was heavy, thick with something rotten, the kind of smell you never forget. Emily darted inside, the man following, Jacob limp in his arms. What they found was the end of one story and the start of another. Emily at her mother's bedside, shaking her, calling her name. But Karen was gone hours ago, maybe longer. The house was silent, empty in a way that had nothing to do with sound. The man Alexander stood in the doorway, lost for words. He wanted to say something, anything to ease the blow, but all he managed was, "I'm so sorry." Emily didn't answer, just held her mother's hand, whispering, "I tried, Mom. I really tried." Alexander knelt beside her, hand on her back, and for the first time since he'd lost his own family, he didn't feel alone in his grief. It was a feeling he'd thought buried for good. He gathered both kids and took them out into the night, away from the house that was now just a tomb. Back at his mansion, everything felt off too clean, too quiet, too safe. Emily hesitated at the threshold, unsure she belonged, but Alexander told her, "You can come in. This is your home tonight." She nodded, but slept on the edge of the bed, never quite letting herself relax. That night, Alexander turned the photo of his wife and daughter face down, making room in his heart for someone new. The days that followed were a blur of small axe meals shared in awkward silence. Emily teaching Jacob to use the blinds, Alexander taping their crayon names on the library wall. Emily was cautious, never far from her brother, watching everything, trusting nothing. But slowly, she started to settle, her voice steadier, her smile just a bit quicker. One night, as Alexander tucked Jacob in, Emily slipped and called him Alex. She froze, expecting trouble. He just smiled. "Alex is fine." After that, laughter returned, not all at once, but in fits and starts. Jacob's giggle, Emily's quick wit, Alexander's failed pancake flips. They became a family in the way that matters most, not by blood, but by choice, by survival, by showing up. Then came a scare. Jacob burned with fever, the kind of sickness that makes you forget how to breathe. Emily's urgency shattered all the calm. Alexander drove them to the hospital, not daring to hope, every minute stretching into eternity. When the doctor said Jacob would be okay, something old and tight in all their chests finally loosened. That night, as dawn broke over the city, they sat together, silent but united, a new kind of family forged in loss, but held together by something stronger. Weeks passed. The mansion changed, not with paint or furniture, but with life. Emily wrote names on paper, hers, Jacob's, and finally, Alex. Alexander framed the page and hung it in the hallway. Sophia, his assistant, added towels with their initials. Pancakes became tradition. Arguments over who poured too much syrup replaced silence. The house breathed again. The day adoption papers came, Alexander didn't make a fuss. He just made macaroni and cheese, the way Jacob liked, and knelt beside the kids. "I can't replace what you lost," he said, "but if you'll let me, I'd like to be what comes next." Emily wrapped her arms around his neck. "You already are," she said. He wrote their last name beneath the crayon names on the wall. "Read." In that house, on a morning no different than any other, Emily touched her new name. Jacob ran through the kitchen, and Alexander realized he was no longer haunted by the past. He was building a future. Not perfect, not easy, but real. So what do you think? Was it fate, luck, or just the raw, stubborn will of a little girl who refused to let go? I'll tell you this much, it wasn't charity that saved us. It was connection, the kind that sticks, the kind that dares you to care again even when you're afraid. And maybe, just maybe, that's what family really is. Now, I'd love to know, what would you have done in Emily's shoes? Or Alex's? Where do you draw the line between help and hope? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what makes a family, what makes a home, and where compassion fits in a world that too often looks the other way. And if this story found a place in your heart, go ahead, share it. Maybe someone out there is still waiting for their knock on the door.